This is the Shadow Chronicles podcast. We are here to take a deep dive into the inner work, generational trauma, and your shadows. Having those hard conversations so you don't have to. You know, all of that shit that just does not get spoken about. In the third drawer down, in the dark, hidden away. My name is Sky and I'm a shadow integration specialist. I am here to help guide you on your journey to unfuck yourself by integrating your shadows, healing the generational trauma so you can vibrate with confidence and just fucking love your life.
And my name is Todd, who's an integrative health coach. I help people own more of who they are, change their lives on many different levels to become who they really are. Find your compass and follow it, to say it simply.
And welcome back. I actually kind of don't know what episode we're on now. I've lost count.
There's like double episodes that became 2.
Yeah, that's it. So I've lost count, guys, but that's okay. We're okay. We're just going to continue going. I think
according to the thing,
yeah,
it's 9.
9, but we're like at 12. So I know we've hit double digits, so exciting times. But today we really wanted to have a chat about the opposite end of the spectrum to what we spoke about in our last 2 episodes, which is the myth behind staying in a relationship, staying in an abusive relationship for the kids. And I know this was a little bit more of like your idea, Todd, when we were brain dumping of like awesome shit stuff to talk about. And that is coming from the other end of the spectrum of like, why the fuck would you do something like that to the person or peoples that you love? Like that is your partner, that is your kids.
Favorite person.
Yeah. Like why the fuck would you treat them like that? Why would you beat them? Why would you, you know, all of the things. So that's what we're going to pull apart today. Good times.
Just hitting the high notes all the time, aren't we?
Totally. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Short answer, long answer, Sky and Todd answer.
Well, if it ends up being a Sky and Todd answer, it's going to get split into 2 anyway.
Certainly has the last couple of episodes.
That. Banging stuff.
Short answer. You don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah. Part of me would disagree with that.
Do you want some slightly larger volumes of clarification so we turn it into a long answer?
Yeah, totally. Because like, yeah, I'm not like, you know what the fuck you're doing. Like really.
It's become so normalized and automated that there is no thought. That's the best I can say about it. It's that there's these mapping of behaviours that you're just so overwhelmed and consumed and invested in that it's not even a thought process anymore until after it's done. And that's when you think about it.
I would also, like, of course they would.
I know you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I was like, of course they would think about it, but really do they? Because if they really thought about it or if it was like a non-thought process, as you said, like a pure reaction, where...
I don't even necessarily mean a reaction.
Well, of course it's a fucking reaction. Yeah.
But a reaction to what?
Well, whatever the trigger is, because there will be a trigger behind the reaction. There always is. There's always a starting point towards that, whether it's a word, whether it's a saying, whether it's an action that the other person does that triggers that, you know, I'm going to, you know, fucking beat the living shit out of you type thing.
So I guess where I'd be coming from is that I would argue to get to that place, you've transcended triggers. You don't even need to be triggers. This is just who you are now.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. It's like there's no thinking.
Yeah.
There is no processing of triggers. It's just...
You piss me off, so I'm going to hit you.
Yeah. There's no consciousness about it. Because if that person genuinely asked the question where you initially framed this episode with, is like, why would you do that to her?
Yeah.
Why would you do that to him?
Well, have you heard those people that do that? Like, why did you do that to your wife, man? Oh, she pissed me off. I'm like, are you kidding
But that's
me?
what I mean. That like that answer is just out of their mouth before anything else. Like, they're so non-cognitive and present with the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
That it's not, even when someone asks you to challenge them on that, it's like, well, clearly that question never, because let's be honest, your subconscious will just fill the gaps, even if they did genuinely ask them, oh, she pissed me off. She made fucking tuna casserole again. Or whatever bollocks it happens to be to justify that atrociousness.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was saying before. It's like there's no thinking about it. But maybe that's a me thing. Maybe that's giving anyone who genuinely thinks their way through what they do the benefit of the doubt and saying, if they thought about it, if they really honestly looked at what they were doing and why they were doing it, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, well...
And that might be, like I say, that might be me thing.
Yeah, so I reckon that really depends. So, you know, in this instance, I believe we have, like, obviously two types of people. We've got the types of people, as you said, that, like, you know, end up flying off the handle, have a massive reaction, and then, as you said, later on or the next day, like, it hits them and they're like, oh, I fucked up, or I did this, or I did that, or whatever the case may be. And they go on that sort of, why did I do that? And then they have genuine remorse, and they go and do something about it. They go and actually go, well, I don't want to be like this, so I'm going to, you know, sort my shit out. And then you've got, or maybe you've got three types of people. Then you've got the other type of people that they do this, and then they get up the next day and go, and they look at their partner, and they look at their partner all bruised and battered or broken down or whatever the case may be, and go, well, if you didn't act like that, I wouldn't have had to do this. Yeah. And that is like a complete bypass. And to me, that says that they knew what they were doing was atrocious. They knew what they were doing was shit. But instead of taking accountability for it, or, you know, going on that journey going, well, why did I do that? What set me off so much that was the chain reaction? And they just completely go on their merry fucking way. And then, okay, maybe there is two types of people, because I'm pretty sure the third type was like, blaming the other person. If you didn't do this, then I wouldn't have had to do that.
What if what you're describing represents stages in this, in being that person? So the first one is the first couple of times you do it, and ideally they genuinely ask, oh shit, I don't want to do that. And then the second one is they know they're doing it, and they know it's shitty, but they don't want to, like, own that.
No.
And then there's the third version, which is completely gone way out the other side, and there's not even that much thought about it anymore. It's not even any sort of suppressive or projective thoughts. It's just how things are for them. That's kind of what I mean. Like, there's no productive thought in that, assuming there's any thought.
Yeah, well, they'll be in a thought loop.
Yeah.
You know, there's no productive thinking or any...
That's probably a better word for what I'm describing.
Yeah.
Is that there's thoughts, and then there's... We haven't touched on it yet, but that's that metacognition. It's like, is that me just justifying my own bullshit? Is that just me pretending like it's her fault because she asked me how my day was and it was a shit day and she triggered me, so I belted her, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like that.
Whatever bullshit they come up with.
The monkey mind justification bollocks that needs a deeper level, if not a few, to go, oh, how is that appropriate?
Yeah.
In any way, shape or form. Yeah.
And touching on what we were talking about last week, and even in previous episodes and stuff like that, this is almost the same, but on the different end of the spectrum. You know, when you are conditioned to be a people pleaser all your life and look after everyone and all that sort of stuff, you get into relationships, or that's, you know, until you break that cycle, you will follow that pattern. on the opposite end of the spectrum, if the same thing, you will grow up in a almost like in an identical household, and then you will follow that path.
Well, it's just like we grow up thinking that this is what masculinity looks like, or this is what femininity looks like, which is why we go looking for a rough approximation of our dad when we're looking for a male partner, and a rough approximation of our mum when we're looking for a female partner.
Yeah.
It's like it's a bit more nuanced than that.
But
until you know any different,
yeah,
like we don't have a whole lot else to go on. We're just not particularly sophisticated enough. We haven't probably invested enough thought into like what we find attractive and why.
Yeah. Well, I personally believe that we are quite intelligent, that it's actually harder to do that thought process. It's actually harder to invest in going, well, what actually do I like?
No, I'm saying it's like we're not sophisticated enough until like later in life when you've gone through that and gone, well, this isn't working.
Yeah.
What do I like?
Yeah.
Because just automating shit and just finding whatever Tom, Dick and Harry or Fiona, Sharon and Jennifer will have me.
Yeah.
And I can just play out my control dramas or my unconscious patterning.
Yeah, it can be whatever I want to be without actually thinking about anyone else but myself. And yeah, when I say it sort of grows up in the same environment, it sort of brings me back to an analogy, one that I heard a long time ago and I tend to use, and it's like we have these twin boys and their dad was a complete alcoholic, drunk, abusive, all that sort of stuff. And these two boys, when they grew up, they became completely different. One became really successful, CEO, businessman, whatever else.
Never touched a drop.
Never touched a drop. And the other one became a violent alcoholic. And you ask both those children or both those adult children now, why are you the way you are? And the answer is the same.
Yeah.
Because of my dad.
So I really like that story because it gives that synopsis of where you find your role models.
Mm.
So is that father in that story a shitty role model or a great role model?
Depends which way you look at it.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
It's like I would argue in one way or another, he's a great role model. It's like he's a great role model if you want to be that shitty motherfucker.
Or he's even a great role model to
be who you don't want to be.
Exactly the fucking opposite of that.
But that's the point. It's like, well, until you're prepared to ask those questions and be present with what you're actually seeing and how automated you find yourself with those behaviors.
Yeah.
That's what I mean when I say that there's no thinking.
Yeah.
They don't think about it.
No, that's it.
Could be argued that that's a relatively simplistic way of describing it as well.
Well, yeah, but it's that whole basis of both parts come out of trauma. It's just whichever one. And at the end of the day, whether it's conscious or unconscious, and this is the thing that I want to really drive home, is that whether it's conscious or unconscious, it's still a fucking choice. You can run your unconscious patterning, you're still choosing to do that. You can choose to change and you've chosen to do that too. You know, it's like the whole
no choice is still a choice.
Yeah, exactly. Basically. Not making a choice is still a choice. And you can, you know, I don't know, hate your dad or hate your mum or whatever else, all you want because of what they did, but you are choosing to be exactly the same. And then using that excuse of, well, my dad beat me, or this is how I grew up, or, you know, this is how I am, which we've spoken about in previous episodes as well, as some sort of cheap cop-out to you not actually doing any sort of inner work to go, like as you said, well, who do I want to be?
Yeah.
You know, do I really want to be like this? Or do I want to be something different? And what does that look like?
So with a lot of people that I work with, I end up having conversations about compliant and defiant relationships with
Yep.
the patterning. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, but like you see your dad be this way. And the analogy, the story you just told about the twin boys is like,
Yeah.
well, one of them chose to be compliant.
Yep.
One of them chose to be defiant. Both of them are still acting on someone else's power.
Yes.
And that's kind of why that thought process is necessary. Like, what's really going on here? What do I choose? And it's not about the choice in reference to how their dad was. It's a choice in reference to who they really are and why that matters and what they actually want their life to look like.
Yeah.
So
I would like to just cover this, not just dads as well.
it's just like it's the example in that
Yeah.
in that story. But thank you for not all men all menning it. Because we've talked about it. We've seen a couple of examples of this over the last week or so.
Yeah.
Our friend at the gym, for example. When you stay in that defiant or compliant pattern, the path you take to avoid the pattern that you don't want is disappointingly often the path that actually leads you full circle straight back into those patterns of behaviours.
Yeah.
That kind of leave you in the same space you didn't want to be in the first place.
Exactly.
You stay angry.
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, it's at least a more productive anger than just accepting it and just being that douchebag again.
Well, it depends really, because I know even from like personal experience with, what I went through a massive period in my life where I was, very angry, resentful and all that sort of stuff. And like, it was like,
It's not weird.
it's not weird. It's completely normal. I think we need to go through that time. Granted, don't stay in there as long as I fucking did.
No. Nice. Like
but I had to learn.
You had to learn.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it happens when it happens.
That.
I know you know that.
But I learned that pretty quickly, as you said. Like, I spent so much time, so much energy in being like, I don't want to be that. And I ended up still being a toxic person because I was just so angry.
Tired, resentful.
Yeah, all of the things. And it was just like, I spent so much time and energy being so angry and resentful and doing all of the things, apparently all of the things of like, I don't want to be like that. But I was still a bitch anyway. Like, I was still very, reactive. I was still very much, like projecting all of my shit onto other people. And yeah, like as you said, it was like I went so far like left that I ended up coming back out on the right.
Yeah.
And that's not helpful either.
Cool. And now you're just even more resentful about yourself. So, I guess I'm just this person now.
Yeah.
Can't escape it. Family curse.
That.
Like, and that's where it comes from, guys. Like, whether you are compliant or defiant, if you allow that influential person in your life to still dictate those decisions to you,
Whether you're following the path to be like them or following the path to try and be the exact opposite, that it's still
not your path.
No, it's essentially still handing your power away.
Yeah. So the reason I brought that out is because whenever I had this conversation, it's like, well, how do we pull back from that and go, if we can see that this is the influence you've had, how do we pull back far enough to be able to say, I don't let this influence how I feel about myself, what I think about myself, and what I want to do with that moving forward. Have you done the healing to go, I don't want to hold this resentment and pain and anger one way or the other, compliant or defiant,
Yeah.
to be able to go, I forgive them and I forgive myself. Because that's that steady bedrock of you-ness. Yep, that'll do. To make your next step.
Yeah, that. So, and I just want to, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, and if I have, I'm sorry, because I'm just going to mention it again.
Sounds like a good point to reinvent.
Yeah, so like
reinforce.
with what you said about the forgiveness for them and for self. So, I believe that over the generations that forgiveness has been used as a manipulation tool. And what I mean by that is, especially in toxic family situations, and I can see a little smile, don't worry.
No, because I absolutely agree with you here.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this person did this and, you need to forgive them, their family, or whatever the case may be. So you're like, yeah, okay, I get it, I forgive you. But then that's almost like their permission or get out of jail free card to go, oh, you forgave me, why are you still hanging on to it? Or, why are you still treating me like that? Or, that whole aspect of like, I forgave, or, you forgave them, so therefore you have to, and like the have to is a dirty word, let them back into your life. Now, with a lot of people that I've worked with who are on the other end of the spectrum, so obviously healing from abusive relationships and all of that sort of stuff, I learned very quickly when I used the word forgiveness that they would shut down. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Because
get why, right?
I get why too, because it took me years and years and years for me to forgive, because I was standing on to my old values and stuff. And it wasn't until I really realized that, well, no, it like as you said, it's not for the other person. It's literally taking your power back and essentially cutting the cord that attaches you to.
Letting go.
So I tend to call it a purge or a cut the cord, because, it allows you to do what you need to do without that, like, icky word of forgiveness that has been, fucking like manipulated all the way through to say that, well, I'm letting go of this. This is no longer going to dictate my choices and what I do. Yeah. But that doesn't mean I need to let you or anyone else that treats me this way back into my life. It just means that you no longer have any sort of effect over me and what I do.
If you escape the bucket of crabs, would you sit on a rock looking at the bucket of crabs like letting them pee in their bucket, pissing you off still?
That.
I wonder if there's the other side of the spectrum with the forgiveness. Because I absolutely agree with what you just said. It's like, no, forgiveness is for you. It's to enable you to let go, move on, drop the shit that you just don't want to or need to hold on to. Yeah. Do you want to be resentful? It sounds crap. It's like poisoning yourself and hoping the other person dies.
Yeah, it's like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies.
Yeah. But sometimes the lack of forgiveness can be used to even the score, so to speak.
Is that when we go on to that, like what we've spoken about before, when we go on to that transcending of levels of energy and we go into like that revenge space?
Maybe. Depends on if you want to stay there or not. Because like if someone genuinely fucks up.
Well, there's a difference between generally fucking up and having remorse.
No, absolutely. Okay. So
and someone just
there's
taking the piss.
someone like being a malicious prick. And you have to forgive them for that because mum said whatever. There's someone who makes a genuine mistake and the person they've horrifically aggrieved never fucking lets them forget it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so there's forgiveness in yourself and there's forgiveness for the other person coming both ways. Both can be manipulated.
Yes.
I suppose then it's still the conversation of like, why would you do that one way or the other? Is there a power dynamic, a control drama that you're trying to play out sort of thing? It's like if it's almost like you set someone up to do something accidentally horrible to you so that you've got leverage on them. It's like you can blackmail them now. Yeah, but you did that thing to me one time, so you owe me forever. And it's like, what's going on for that person where they've almost weaponized their victimhood at that point?
I was going to say, that sounds like my mum. Never mind.
Anything you want to tell us, Sky? Or is that a whole nother 6-week series?
That. Yeah, so you're right there, obviously. like anything, it just depends on the person, you know, and it depends what they're trying to do. And I think you're right on both ends. Like 100% it's a power dynamic, and 2, it's a control thing.
Yeah.
You know, on both ends, whether you're the victim or the abuser, both aspects are wanting control. You know, so if, you know, like the abuser's like, well, I forgave you, so therefore, you know, you have to, you know, be nice to me. That's them regaining control.
So you take it back to what we originally sort of started with.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you do that to the person you love, in inverted commas? Why, that's your favorite person. Why would you do that? It's like, it's because, well, I would argue most of the time you're so out of control in your own sense of self, your own self-worth, that you've got to take other people's power.
Yeah. Narcissism 101.
So that howling depth of insecurity and pitiful self-worth. So how do I fix that? Well, I've got to take everyone else's power.
Yeah. Got to bring everyone down to my level rather than bringing yourself up to other people's.
Or better yet, condition everyone to elevate me to as high a level as I can possibly manipulate them to convince everyone around me that I deserve to be at. That sounded more convoluted than it needed to be.
I was going to say, that sounds very culty.
Tell me that's not what narcissists do.
Oh, fucking 100%.
But that's my point. It's like, well, how do you fix your own whole of horrible?
Yeah.
By getting everyone else to try and pretend it's...
Put everyone else beneath you.
Marble with gold filigree.
White robes and pretend that, you know.
That. It's like,
So massive control factor, which obviously stems from a massive out of control childhood.
That. So you sort of turn it back to what we were saying before about like when you're in that childhood, you watch this stuff play out. Presumably, there's always exceptions, but presumably you learnt this shit from somewhere. And what did your dad do? What did your mum do? How did that dynamic actually work? What do you think is normal? How do you go on about finding someone that you can play out that thing now that you're the adult? Yeah,
that's it. And then even taking it back to what we spoke about in the last 2 episodes is like, you know, on the opposite end of the spectrum too, like, you know, staying in those styles of those abusive relationships, and then wondering why your daughter or your son grows up and goes and gravitates towards someone that abuses them. So, well, you taught them that it was okay.
Yeah. Or that's what they deserved.
Which
is a deep, deep hole to get out of.
You made Dad angry that you deserve this.
Yeah.
When lo and behold, all you've done is trigger your abuser's wounded fucking inner child, and they can't handle it because they don't have the, you know, awareness and know-it-all to go, hang on a minute here, this is not, you know, their shit, this is my shit. So, yeah. And then that brings the same thing, like I've heard it a million times when I was a kid. If you didn't act like this, you wouldn't have got belted, you know, and...
Which, you know... Sometimes it's true, but every time, really?
Really? Well, that's it. And to the point where even for me myself, like I lied when I was a kid. I remember it very vividly. I did. I
scumbag.
Right. I ran up my parents' phone bill, ringing, I think back in the day, that makes me sound so old, but, you know, when 1-800 numbers or 1-300...
It was a thing.
1-300 numbers like cost a lot.
Yeah.
And I'd like ran...
Like $4.95 a minute or something
That's right. And I ran up their phone bill and I lied about it, right? So, and I lied and I held on to that lie, and I got walloped every time I lied, to the point where I had bruises across my thighs from the belt. And obviously after a period of time, I come clean clearly. But I walked around with shorts on and stuff like that. And when people asked me what happened, I said I lied. Because I thought that level of abuse was normal.
you'll see memes and stuff like that where people are saying, oh, be me, tell a funny story about what it was like as a kid. Everyone else, dude, you were abused.
That.
And you're like, I thought I was just getting punished.
That's right. And it wasn't really until I had my own kids and I was like, whoa, no.
Can I ask what you were ringing?
I can't remember, but it was something to do with fishing from what I remember.
How into fishing were you?
I wasn't. I just saw it on the television. And I went, oh, I wonder what this is. And
could have at least been some like phone sex line or something like that, or just like, ring up to hear like, oh, back in the day it might have been, I don't know, Jonathan Brandis's voice or something like that. Like
I was only like 10 or 11. Come on.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
Like, what do they talk about on these phone lines? And you just ring it up and then you're on there for 20 minutes and that's like $400 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Don't mind me. I'm just like,
that.
That's a lot of grand for fishing tips.
I don't know how much the phone bill was. All I know it was rung up. That's all I know.
It was enough to catch a proper belting.
It was enough to catch an absolute fucking beating. But this was the thing as well. So you guys have heard snippets of my own story. Like my dad was the one that, you know, he was the abusive one. He was the one that beat the crap out of, you know, my mum and did horrible things to my brother and me and all this sort of stuff. But it was my mum that gave me that walloping.
Do you know what a bottom bitch is?
It could be many things. What are we talking about here?
Pimps.
Okay, yep. It's like the low rung prostitute.
No.
No? The high rung prostitute.
Yeah.
Ah, interesting. I learned something new today.
So, I was listening to Dave Chappelle stand up. He sort of talks about this in relation to how, like, he experienced his contract with Comedy Central, right? It's not the point, but at the end of the special, he tells a story about a book he read. It was kind of like, I can't even remember the name of the pimp, but he basically wrote a book about how to be a pimp.
Okay.
Yeah. It was written like literally 100 years ago. It's like a Parisian pimp in the 20s.
Okay,
last century.
so like full blown back in the day when it was a real thing, right?
And in one of the chapters, he talks about what it is, like how you get new girls into the
circle, the thing?
The circle. I was going to say harem, but that's even a little bit too nice. But what it is that you use your bottom bitch, who is the queen bee and is the most effective persuader, because wouldn't most women walk into a conversation with a pimp and go, this sounds sus?
Yeah.
But you get her to go, oh, no, we make all sorts of money and it's actually quite glamorous. There's not some creepy dudes who haven't showered in 6 months and their halitosis. Like, you know, like that sort of stuff. But like,
yeah.
It's that idea that you get someone else to enforce the rules.
Yeah.
So
you don't look like the bad person.
That.
Oh.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
So whether that means that she's now so compliant that she wants everything to run smoothly so she doesn't have to be the first port of call for the absolute fucking dumping when things go wrong.
Bear the brunt, is what I was going to say.
And therefore, like, shit trickles downhill, right?
Yeah.
How do you get out of that? By making sure you're the smoothest, slickest surface by which for shit to run down. How's this analogy going for you, mate?
Oh, so many bad images.
But is it wrong?
No, it's not wrong. It actually makes a lot of fucking sense, because that's it. It's like, oh, fuck me. And
okay, so how does that sit?
Well, I feel like a light just went off, which is really interesting because I never had it explained to me in that way. I think part of me obviously always knew it. It was like one of those, I think I've spoken about it beforehand, I know, because I had someone actually reach out to me with a massive light bulb they had from listening to one of the previous episodes about
awesome. Thanks for the feedback,
thanks
everybody.
for the feedback.
Good for you. Glad we helped.
That and and she was saying that she was like, I didn't realize that this is what I was doing when it comes to like suppressing children's emotions, so they're not wearing the brunt of the dad, in this case, their anger because this child's having a meltdown or in an intense motion and all that sort of stuff. And they were like, and yeah, she was like, I didn't realize that what it was until Todd had asked you, like, were you actually ever taught that, I know what episode it was now, come back, that anger wasn't allowed, or was it just something that was conditioned? And I was just like, well, no, but it was
like a level of implication.
It was a level of implication because it was like, you better pull your head in before dad comes home type thing, and so you just like end up like, holding it all in and all that sort of stuff. But in a way, it's almost like the same thing because it's like...
It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just different characters.
Slightly
different level of consequence.
So... like a light bulb went off into, the whys and hows, but then obviously, referencing back to the last episode, where Angry Sky come in, and I'm just like, again, it's your job to protect your children, and what do? You beat them instead so you don't bear the brunt of the abuser, and then when the marriage finally, breaks down, or the relationship finally breaks down, and everyone's like, and you finally admit that you weren't happy for so long, and they're like, oh, why did you stay? It's like, oh, I stayed for the kids.
Now, I can't remember if I asked this question in the last episode or not. Do you think it's possible that she thought she was protecting you?
I have no idea.
I can explain that better.
Yeah.
Sounds like a better.
Yeah. Right now the answer is no. But...
she taught you to suppress your emotions to not trigger your dad.
Yes. And yet I still did things that triggered her.
Is there
Fun.
less, as weird as this sounds, is there less consequence to triggering your mum than there is your dad? Or is it just different?
I think it's just different.
Okay,
Yeah, I wouldn't say
fine.
there's not less because I still got walloped by both of them.
Yeah.
Didn't really matter.
But like pull your head in or your dad's going to hear about it.
Yeah.
Is like the conditioning of dad is the ultimate authority figure.
Yeah.
And that's what she's trying to instill in you. It's like, don't let me get out the ace up the sleeve, which is
dad.
Crabby dad.
Yeah.
This is how you keep yourself safe from him. That's what I mean by, was she trying to teach you to protect yourself from him in the most bottom bitch way possible?
Oh.
That's, but like, if, let's just say hypothetically that's true.
Yeah.
Is that grounds to go, I get why she did what she did. She can't admit it that way because she knows in reflection it's dumb.
Yeah.
But it's like, is that a thing that you can then let go of? Because you're like, it was dumb, but if that's what she was doing, I get why she was doing it. In a weird, twisted, big circular way that ends up coming right out the other side where you end up just getting fucking manipulated and abused anyway.
Yeah.
Does that...
I think it makes sense. Like my brain's hurting, so that means it's learning stuff.
Oh, good, we've poked something.
In a way, you'd want to hope so, but then also in another way,
that's the best case scenario I can think of for why you just be that compliant beyond her own sense of self-preservation.
Yeah, so that, but
it doesn't make it okay.
Nobody's
saying that.
It doesn't make it okay. It's just another case of like, I'm going to beat you so dad doesn't have to type thing, or, all that, like, lucky you're getting it from me rather than this person. And that's just like, oh my God. But then obviously, because as we do, we follow the cycle until, we learn that, hang on a minute, this is not right. So I did end up in
shit.
Abusive narcissistic relationships and stuff like that. And it was still like when mum goes, my mother-in-law's bad for this too, by the way. I knew they were never good enough, like good for you. I knew they were horrible. And I'm like, bitch, this is like exactly the same as what you put up with. Like,
thanks for your eagle eye hindsight, lady.
yeah, exactly. Like, excuse me, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, again, this is supposed to be the person that you love, and then you treat them like trash. Like,
when I was saying before about, like, you know, there's no thinking. Again, we sort of you wisely clarified what I meant by thinking.
yeah.
The only thing that happens is a way in which to rationalize it. So how do you rationalize your own part in things? By blaming you from not being smart enough for figuring out the lessons that she was trying to teach you by fucking staying. Yeah. Way to go, Marta mum. Like team player.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I took one for the team. Fuck no, you didn't.
Okay. If that's how you're living with it, fill your boots. But that doesn't mean anyone has to believe that bullshit.
Right, that's it. But then, like, again, you come back to, like, well, that's the person that you love. Why would you treat them like that? Yeah, and I get it. It's conditioning. Yes, I get it.
All you can say is that you're at a place where you think that those two things can coexist. And I'd be fascinated to hear that person define what they mean when they say love.
Yeah.
Because I think you'd be in for a real wild, circuitous, that's not the word, but you know what I mean. Like, that'd be one hell of a long-winded or
a very short-winded.
Very short explanations.
Yeah, I believe the explanation would be to put up with whatever I give, you know, or, you know, like the whole, like, accept me for who I am. Okay.
That was
what?
So on point. It's not funny.
Fucking nailed it.
It's like, yeah, that's what love is.
Yeah.
Just to deal with my bullshit.
You need to deal with my shit, all of my shit, and you need to take it with grace and, like, you know, don't make a fuss.
But the irony is that the fact that you're acknowledging that this person just not, like, they just have to accept my shit, recognizes that you're shit.
You know, it's like, oh my God. And that's the one thing that fucking infuriates me.
That's what
so
love
much.
is.
Right, because that's it. Like, I know that
extreme tolerance. Cool.
Well, that's like, and even still, just bring it back to, bring it back to my mum. I'm going to remember my mum. Oh dear, mummy complex not. But like talking to, you know, my little brother and all this sort of stuff, and look, I am the black sheep. I am the cycle breaker. I'm the scapegoat. Like, I'm all of the things in my family.
How dare you?
Right? I'm like, you know, I sent you, did I send you that reel? No, you sent me that reel, like that dancing dude, like how I walk into family functions as the cycle breaker and the black sheep. I'm like, that's fucking true.
It's like graceful ballerina.
Yeah.
And then it turns into like Snoop dancing and all that sort of stuff. It's like gangster shit.
But the thing that infuriates me so much is that she enables, you know, my little brother a lot, and he's, you know, had a few failed relationships and all of that sort of stuff. And it's literally like, she'll be like, you need to just find someone that will love you for who you are, as you are now. And I'm like, cool. So it's completely okay for, you know, him to get blind ass fucking drunk and abuse people. Like.
So what we were saying before about compliant and defiant.
Yeah.
What are you?
Well, I'm the defiant one, clearly.
What is he?
He's the compliant one.
If I poked at that a little bit and said, is that why it still infuriates you?
Yeah, probably. It also infuriates me because I was the child that got heavily disciplined a lot. I was the child that, you know, at the age of 15, I wasn't allowed to be at home. I had to have a job. I'd finished school at that stage. And I was looking for my apprenticeship at that time, you know, we're 15-year-old. And
I mean, you've described how much fun you had at school. And it's like, I wonder why you'd want to get out of that place.
Right. So I was never allowed to stay at home and do nothing in quotation marks. I had to go out and work. If I went out, as teenagers do, if I went out partying with my friends and drinking, I was never allowed to call in the middle of the night to be collected. I had to stay wherever I was, which means I put myself into a lot of dangerous situations. I look back and go, how the fuck did I survive that? But anywho, all of that sort of stuff. I was never allowed to talk out of turn. I was never allowed to, all of this sort of stuff. Yet my little brother was allowed to, quit his job and take 18 months off and did, not a hell of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, cool. You do you, boo.
He's finding himself.
That, right? He doesn't know what he wants to do with himself just yet. Wank, wank.
And sometimes that's true, but
that's true, and sometimes that's necessary. And
there's some shit you can do in the meantime.
That, right?
I hope McDonald's is hiring.
He would, constantly go out and get, blind face shit drunk and call my mum in the middle of bumfuck nowhere to the point where she'd be like, "Where are you?" And he'd be like, "I don't know," because he'd just gone walkabout. But she would always get out of bed and go and pick him up. And, he would front her because angry, small child, his own traumas, I get it. Mm-hmm. But he was never punished for that, or there was never a consequence for that. I had to sit there and watch it. And if I end up putting my 2 cents in, I would be the one that was the bad person. And, and it was just so that's what infuriates me. Mm-hmm. And then when I confronted my mum on that, it was a case of I don't know
what you're talking about.
No, it wasn't. I just needed to parent him differently. Fuck you. Again.
The reason I asked the question I just asked was because I know sometimes that is absolutely true. Well, you need to parent some kids differently in different ways.
Oh, 100%. I need to parent my eldest son slightly different to my youngest son because my eldest son.
But the key word is slightly, right?
Is a neurodivergent, so he needs different
stimulus, different boundaries.
Different stimulus. Boundaries are pretty the same with both my kids.
I've met your kids. I get it.
And all of that sort of stuff. But I have to explain things. I have to do things differently with him than I do with my youngest. But the rules within the household or the boundaries are still the same.
And that's why I'm asking, is because that there needs to be differences because you're dealing with 2 different humans here. But the complete rule set changes is and the reason I'm poking at it is because this sounds like there's still a little bit of resentment
it's a tiny bit
going on there. And it's would it be fair to say that at least in this particular sort of family dynamic, that's the next stage of healing? It's I forgive myself for being caught up in that, shall I say? Yeah,
or it's I'm on that journey at the moment. I feel it's my angry teenager that's coming out right now, and stuff that.
What if it's that conversation of your inner child takes time to mature in the same way that you as your adult self does. You go back and heal 5-year-old Sky and then she takes a little while to mature through the years and now she's currently at 15-year-old Sky where
16-year-old Sky where it's fuck you.
That. It's because defiance is way better than compliance. Right. In my opinion. It's like that anger, healing with anger, or anger drives healing.
That's it.
Because at least when you define, you've made a decision.
Well, yeah, that's it. And on top of that, I 100% think that they're both in codependent relationship together.
I don't think there's any think about that somehow, but
just putting that out there. But that's what I mean. It was just hang on a minute. But again, you're supposed to love those people, and you do that, and then you have this other person go, you just need to, find someone that loves you for you. And I feel that is what a lot of these people are going through, whether it is from parental roles, enablers and all that sort of stuff. So therefore they never actually have to take accountability or look in the mirror and go, would I date me? Or would, and
that question
Yeah.
For anyone and everyone listening, is a hell of a question.
Fuck yeah, it is. Because if the answer is no, then there's some shit you need to sort out.
You know who you are.
Mm.
You know when you're a piece of shit. Why would you inflict that on yourself?
Exactly.
It's like if you had with me, if I had the exact female version of me that looked dramatically more feminine, but that is the point of like, I wouldn't want to touch that bitch with a 10-foot pole in someone else's hand. What does that say about me and what I really think about me?
Yeah, exactly.
And what actually needs addressing?
That. Yeah. So. Still boggles the mind, but I know.
Sorry, did I bring up awkward images? Did I?
No, it's fine. He's like 6'5" toddlina in a red dress.
Yeah. Does it have sequins?
Yes.
Is she 6'5" because she's wearing like epic heels as well?
No, she's just 6'5" naturally, man.
Okay, yeah,
so you know, you just said the female version of you, so that's just like 6'5".
Slightly less hairy. I hope.
Oh dear.
What were we talking about?
Fucking.
Because it wasn't that.
Why would you be beating on your person that you love?
Yeah.
And like, and I see a lot of this, and I don't know if you see a lot of it as well, but I see a lot of it just with where I am at with the people that I help and all that sort of stuff. Is that, and I know I've spoken about this, whether it's the last couple of episodes or whatever, but I have, that this massive transitioning happening at the moment where a lot of, especially women, men too, a lot of women are breaking free of toxic or abusive relationships and they're going out and doing it on their own. And, you know, lots of trust, all that sort of stuff. I know you're like nodding, right? Which is fantastic. I love that, you know.
Ultimately, you have to do it on your own.
Yeah, exactly. Do all the healing.
That's not right or fair, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's like
do the healing, you know, find your worth again, all of that sort of stuff, because, you know, your self-worth, if you're putting up with that, or if you're in that, you're like, again, look at your self-worth. If you're inside those relationships, that's where you need to look, you know, and break free of that, build yourself back up, all of those sort of things. Fucking great, right? The opposite end of the spectrum is I'm seeing a lot of like, and I'm going to say men because of just the generalization and the, you know, majority.
The numbers are bearing it out just at the minute.
The numbers are bearing it out, are all throwing a fucking temper tantrum because they can't find anyone. And it's like, well, no, asshole. No, you're not finding anyone anymore that's going to put up with your trash.
Have we brought up the red pill community yet?
No, we haven't, but this is probably a really good time because a lot of that red pill community is like, you know, you need to put up with my shit.
Some of it
has
very good, valid points to make.
Yeah, like all things.
Some of it just sounds like resentful, whiny motherfuckers who are exactly what you just described. It's like, I can't find anyone to put up with my douchery.
You know, and that's like the whole narcissistic tendency factor is, you know, all these people pleasers, empaths, all that sort of stuff. I was like, fuck you, I'm out. Like, I'm done. I'm going to work on myself. I know my worth, all this sort of stuff. And I'm going to do the work on myself to heal. And like, as you said, all these whiny assholes that'll be like, I can't find anyone to put up with my shit. Are not like willing to do the work, to do the healing that they need to heal, to, you know, transcend the levels of energy they need to, so they become a healthy masculine, in quotation marks.
I'm glad you brought it up. Because about 10 minutes ago, the thought occurred to me that what if one of the justifications, rationalizations, the bullshittery of why you do that to someone you love is because they're not living up to the expectations that you have for what you think you deserve. It's almost like active I can't believe I'm about to use this word. Coercive discipline.
That was hard to say, wasn't it? I think you have an aneurysm there.
I stopped myself from saying the word punishment.
Yeah.
But it's probably more appropriate. But
it's almost like slave.
That person, that's what I mean. It's like, and like that's the extremity, the real bit of the red pill community is like I just
literally need a slave.
Maid that I can fuck.
Yeah, like a slave. That's all that's all I need, and not the good kind either.
The fun kind.
The fun kind. Yes, the fun kind.
But like, I guess that's why I sort of asked the question. It's like, do you think that that's part of the rationale behind why they would do that? Is that?
Well, I wonder then, because then that opens up that whole other, kettle of fish of, not the whole my dad beat me, so that's how I'm going to act or whatever else, but more of the case of like, mummy did everything for me. And treated
why? And because she got fucking told,
and never punished me for anything. Did everything, fucking wiped my ass until I was 12. I don't know. That's a little creepy, but
sorry.
Yeah,
I've met that kid.
Oh really? Oh God,
he was 14 and his mum was still drying him after his shower.
Oh dear Lord.
But
that.
So that's why I sort of asked the question. Is like.
So then they grow up with this inflated sense of self of like...
Both are based on expectations that you need other people to facilitate. Now, whether that's someone to be a punching bag or someone to be the living slave that has a ring on it, I guess, or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
It's like both of those kind of still come from that same place, that sort of insecurity. I need someone else to be... what I know I'm not.
Yeah. And we wonder why there's so many single women out there, because they don't want to look after man-children.
Somewhat healthier aspects of the red pill community are the male version of that.
What, male version of what?
I don't want to deal with that.
Oh, yep, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it's there.
But there's extremes on both ends of the spectrum.
But that's the point. Yeah. It's like there's a whole bunch of entitled, deluded people out there.
Yeah,
I don't give a shit what flavor they are. They're there.
Yeah,
and someone has decided they don't want to deal with them anymore, and those are a whole bunch of different flavored people too. All of that being what it is. What if in that not particularly self-aware person, the word love is becoming an interchangeable concept for you help the world work the way I need it to feel validated?
That's it. You just hit the nail on the head. All things, within that realm, on both ends of the spectrum, whether you are...
Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. It's like...
people please to gain validation. Abusers beat the crap out of their partners to gain some sort of validation, whether it's control, whether it's
normalcy,
whether it's hierarchy. That person's beneath me, and they deserved it or whatever else. And I would debate and I would argue that even on both ends of the spectrum, that's not love. It's a form of manipulation in order to, as you said, gain what you need, which is validation. Because if you loved that person, if you genuinely loved that person, you wouldn't fucking do that. And if you did, you would be like, holy crap, I'm a piece of shit. I'm going to go sort my shit out now because there's clearly something I need to fix, or there's something that I need to work through. And the same version with the people pleasers,
Three things there, but sorry.
That's okay. When we look at like people pleasers and stuff like that, and I know this hit a lot of people in my Facebook community when I went live and told them this, that even people pleasing is still a form of manipulation to gain validities, because you're purposely not showing your true authentic self to make other people comfortable. So make sure people like you.
There will be an episode where we discuss the difference between niceness and kindness.
Yeah.
And this is why niceness, I would argue, isn't to be aimed for, because that's exactly what you just described. It's a form of manipulation to elicit what you want.
And it's
not the same thing.
And the same on the other end of the spectrum. It's a form of manipulation to elicit what you want. And that's not love.
No.
Yeah.
So, 3 things.
Yes.
The thing I said a couple of minutes ago, some people equate love with finding someone to utilize to validate their worldview.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about it just after I said it. I was like, what if I said that that's an aspect of love? Like, what if this person makes your life better, makes the world better? I would love that.
Yeah, well, that would be healthy, wouldn't it?
But you'd fucking know. Sorry.
Like.
But that leads to the next 2 questions. Do you love them, or do you love the idea of them? And we go back to that expectation thing.
Yeah. And
then the deeper level of, are you in love with them, or do you love them? Knowing that those are 2 different things as well.
Those are 2 different things as well.
But can you see my point? Is like, well, how is this person themselves and making your life better? And do you love them for that? Or do you love how they make you feel about your life and how much better it is or isn't for that? And then we talk about what we started talking about, which is like, how can you do this to this person and still say you love them? Is because they let you play out how you think the world works. Now, if they're beating the shit out of your partner because they made tuna casserole again, as I said before, what if that's what you mistake for love? Like, they let me feel normal. That very, very valid eye roll and shake of the head that you just gave.
Yeah, sorry.
But it's that
podcast, not video.
Yeah, that rationalization of like, well, maybe this is one of the other ways that people get there. Is like, oh, they let me feel how I think I'm supposed to feel in my life, which is shitty and capable of venting that on anyone I see fit. And then we completely remove that from why I asked, like, are you in love with them or do you love them? Do you love them or do you love the idea of them? Because that is a very different thing. And that's that expectation thing. It's like this person should be this, and this. They're my ideal partner. You're shame if they fucking didn't live up to that, right?
Right.
Well, what happens if they don't live up to that? Do you get resentful or manipulative or abusive or like to try and get them to live up to those expectations? That's because it's got nothing to do with them whatsoever.
Yeah, that, right. And I would also even argue to the point of, like, as you said, like, you know, this, and this is like my ideal partner. Have fun, and they have to manipulate that because it's so fucking monkey fucked and up the arse that it doesn't exist. Sorry. You know, like
monkey fucked and up the arse. Couldn't you kill 2 birds with one stone and just monkey fucked in the arse?
I don't know.
Anyway,
that's just where I went. So we're just rolling with it. But
good
like,
for you.
I would even argue that someone that has like a page of like expectations of what they look like in a partner, it doesn't happen in any sort of relationship. Like there's a good core which aligns.
Nice. But that's, the hard rules and the soft rules. Like what's negotiable and what's no. This is a no.
Like there's your core values or your cores, which are like, yeah, as you said, like a non-negotiable. This is a no type thing. Yeah. And then there's like, all of this other stuff. And like, okay, if this person doesn't live up to this expectation, is it a fucking game changer or not? Like, for Christ's sake, I like blonde hair, blue-eyed, big boobs, I don't know, like size 8, whatever. Like, okay, cool. So,
How shallow are you, dude? Anyway.
But, let's just roll it out here. I'm 5'3", size 8, big boobs, but I've got black and red hair and green eyes. Does that automatically mean that I don't meet your expectations because I've got different coloured hair?
Pretty awkward.
Like, yeah, right.
Would you consider dyeing it?
I've been blondes before.
I think I've seen photos of that.
Yeah. My hair didn't like it very much, but
weird.
That's what I mean. Like, not one, like, you can't live up to one person's all of their expectations. And I was talking to a friend of mine about this on the weekend, like our friend from the gym, and I was talking about the relationship hierarchy.
Yeah.
And, and how it's been conditioned and manipulated that one person, and this is going to lead into what you were saying, one person is, there to fulfill all your needs. And if all your needs are not fulfilled, there is something wrong with that person, not the system.
Or you, for that matter.
Or you, right? And I think it was like Christianity that did that. But the case and matter is, like, if you look at the relationship hierarchy, it's actually impossible for one person to fulfill all your needs in a relationship. And you go fulfill those needs in other relationships. And I'm not saying you go and screw other people.
It's not about that.
No, but it's essentially like, the same with the whole manipulation and abusive thing. You're not allowed to have girlfriends, or you're not allowed to have guy friends. I'm all you should need. Whatever.
Define need.
But
you use the word expectation of what this person's. Again, it's like it's got nothing to do with an individual.
No.
But that's ultimately the projection. It's like instead of assessing like why you need them to be all of these things.
Yeah.
So
a lot of the times,
what does that say about me that I need that level of partner?
Well,
perceived level of partner.
It says that I am full of fucking trauma, or I'm full of shit that I don't want to deal with. Yeah. So I'm going to, create a list.
Overcorrect.
Of all the things that I need within a partner, because, that means that I'm going to feel comfortable and I'm not going to get triggered, or I don't actually have to look in the fucking mirror and
I'm glad you said it that way.
And actually work on my shit.
Remember what we said about, the path you take to avoid the thing that you don't want is more often than not just the circuitous. Because that sounds like you find this person.
They're an exact representation of who you are.
I was going to go the other side and go, how long before they trigger the fuck out of you? And you go, wow, they're amazing. I'm a piece of shit. And then you've got to like drag them down and keep them under the thumb.
Because it never comes out
because they're amazing, but you've got to control them because you're so insecure that it's only a matter of time to find out what kind of level of douchebag you really are. And then you just go, I'm out, eat a dick.
Yeah, but it would never come out as like, they're amazing and I'm shit, so I need to bring them down. It's like, you're shit and I'm amazing, so you need to fix yourself.
That's what I mean. It's like the proverbial gaslighting process. It's like, well, how do I manipulate them so that I am in control?
And that's what I mean. It's just like the whole, it's backwards and arse about, because no one can fulfill all expectations. All relationships are designed to trigger, even healthy ones.
Especially the healthy ones, but that's why they're healthy.
Yeah.
No, I'm not happy when I said that. Nah. They're all,
their self-awareness is different, that they know that when they get triggered, they're like,
good.
Is, I've got something to work on here. What does this mean? Yeah. Rather than like, you're a piece of shit. I'm going to beat the crap out of you because you triggered me, because you triggered all of the unhealed parts of me, because that's what they are. They're a mirror. Like, you may have this backwards and ass about list of expectations, but you are going to attract your direct mirror.
Well, the expectations that you would have for that partner, they're the expectations that you actually have for yourself that you put no effort into meeting.
That.
And this is why, like, there'll be a lot of coaches, psychologists, like thought leaders and things like that who will say, you want this level of partner? Go out and be that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Like, if you want this kind of partner, there's no way that person is going to want to hang out with you.
Well, that's what I mean, coming back to that, like, would you look in the mirror? Would you date you?
Yeah.
If you were sitting there beating the shit out of your partner and you look in the mirror, would you date you? No. Fucking there you got to, as you said, go out. And it's the same analogy for anything. Like if you want to lose weight, for example, be the person who's lost the weight or, you know, whatever the case may be what you want before you become it, because that's how you walk the path.
I think I mentioned it before. There's the be, do, have process.
Yeah.
It's like if you want to have this, then you reverse engineer it. It's like, well, what do I need to do to have that? This and this and this. Or who do I need to be to do that?
I need to be
have that.
Yeah. This, that, and that.
So you're progressively aligning yourself with the deeper, more valuable you gets you actually what you want, or at least what you say you want, what you think you want. You're allowed to find out that that's not actually true, and you're an adult. You can reassess, you can adapt, and you can adjust. But you've got to be present with that, rather than just, this is what I expect life to be like, and if it doesn't work out, I'm throwing hands.
Right? Because I hate to break it to you, it's not going to work out like you expect. Never does.
As I say, maybe that treatment is to get the person you love to be more like what you want them to be, which is a shitty thing to say, but like it's
that's what I mean.
Can see it as like the rationalization.
It's like, this is what I need in order to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And I say comfortable as in like, non-triggered. It never happens because you're always going to get triggered because you throw hands. But yeah, this is what I need, whatever the aesthetics is. Must be quiet, submissive is a word that's being thrown around a lot.
Get them to define what they mean by submissive,
right,
and you'll have your answer before they've even finished.
Exactly.
Because you know what? We're not here to talk about that today.
Well, there's a fun submissive. Like there is a fun submissive.
There is a very fun submissive. Okay, so we can touch on it now, if you want. I would argue that. All right, I'll ask you.
Okay.
Stepping outside of the fun version.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We can talk about that later. Just out of the gutter, you weirdo.
Come on, I live there.
Touche.
Dark humour is how I cope with that stuff. No.
Yeah, that's kind of where we met, really, wasn't it?
Anyways, continue on your question.
What would you consider to be a valuable version of feminine submissiveness?
A valuable version of feminine submissiveness.
What would be a version of submissiveness, knowing that we've already stepped out of the gutter,
okay,
that you feel would make your life more valuable?
That's a fantastic question. For me, personally,
and then whatever it's personally for you,
yeah,
and then would that be a thing that you would say generally might be true of women? Generally,
I would say yes, because for me personally, it would be a case of like, the whole masculine like lead thing.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that would be taking shit off my plate. So what I mean by that is like...
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, is like if something needs to be done, go and do it. Or if, like my other half wants to go out, he organises it. If he can see that there's mess in the house, he looks after it.
So you would submit to his leadership,
yeah,
knowing that you trust him to be absolutely A, trustable, B, have your best interest at heart, and C, have both of your best interests in that context, and he fucking acts like it as well.
Yes.
I would argue that the good part of the red pill community
Yeah.
is that's what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
Is like we're looking for a woman who will trust us to lead because we have proven that we're fucking good at it and it's good for her, and she lets that be a thing.
I have a question.
Go.
I have an interesting question. So I actually thought about this, and I don't know if this should be like another episode or not, but this was a really interesting concept because obviously a lot of women I speak to, that is what they want. They just want to let go of the reins. Like they just don't want to have everything on top of them. But, you know, leading from this podcast, this is the shit that they've put up with. So they have a lot of walls and they have a lot of barriers, and I get that. Like, fuck it, I have my own, and all that sort of stuff. I would argue that like a man or a woman, depends what energy system you are, because
It's what it is.
whatever it is, comes to, you know, if I was like, let's say I was, you know, just out of a horrible relationship and I was, you know, spent some time being on my own and healing, and I was just starting to get back in the dating world and all this sort of stuff, and I sat down to dinner with a man and, you know, did the whole like, what are you looking for in a relationship and what are you looking for in a relationship? You know, you hope, I don't know, I haven't dated in like over 15 years, so I would think they're probably very valuable questions. And the man turns around and goes, oh, I would like a woman to be inner feminine and to submit to me and allow me to lead. Now, that would be like, ding, 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 fuck you, I'm out because of what I've dealt with. So,
And that's perfectly fair and reasonable.
And that's perfectly fair and reasonable. So I would also argue that on the flip side of that, because as I said, a lot of women are looking for that, their answer would be, you know, I would like the answer to be, this is what I want. I would like someone to be, you know, stepping into their feminine energy and allowing me to lead. But I understand that, you know, your previous experiences in relationship may have a warp sense, a trauma sense to it, whatever the case may be, right? You know, would you allow me to, like, you know, gain that trust? But then obviously, as you said, like boundaries and, you know, all that sort of stuff. There's a level of like...
I don't know if anyone's capable of having that on the first date.
No, I'm
that,
not.
like, but I know what you mean, right?
Yeah.
Like that's an evolving conversation. Like
Yeah.
what does this actually look like? Well, I was in this kind of relationship and he said that that's what he wanted. So weirdly, I've got my back up a little bit.
Yeah. You know, because...
It's incumbent on both people to trust the process.
That, but then also that's when we have, like, on our previous episodes, we talk about non-negotiables and boundaries and shit like that. But even, like, I guess in the case of me, when I said, like, get shit off my plate, you know, to me, and I know that don't like it, because a lot of the times
Tough.
It is a case of the shit that's off my plate is in what a lot of conditioned society of men is what a woman's role is. And that is, you know, if you want me to drop into my feminine energy, don't expect me to be a house bitch 100% of the time. Like, if you come home and the house is a mess, I feel that, you know, or you can see that I'm like fried. Like, there's a difference between like not doing anything and
Massive
and,
difference.
And going, I'm so fucking fried right now that I'm about to snap. I'm so overstimulated. So let's just like go with the overstimulation, and the kids have been screaming and, you know, and my hair's, you know, everywhere, and I just look like I've, you know, crawled out of some gutter.
Not a good gutter this
and
time.
not a good gutter. But, you know, the thing, and like, and my other half does this, and the thing that will drop me very quickly out of that like hardened shell of like, I've got to keep it together, I've just got to get shit done and all this sort of stuff, is him coming home and going, go take a bath or go take a shower, I've got this.
Now,
fucking doom.
Absolutely. I have questions.
Yes.
You take two points to make before those questions.
Okay.
That is incumbent upon that man to want to be that man.
That.
It is incumbent upon that woman to be prepared to give up her masculine, to be in her feminine.
That.
Because I can tell you from personal experience,
Yeah.
I will not fight for dominance with a woman who, no matter what it is she's asked for and what I've done to try and live up to that,
Yeah.
will not get out of her masculine. So it goes both ways.
100%.
The question I have is, the traditional gender roles in a household aside,
Yeah.
is it that it's specifically the chores or jobs, or is it the executive cognitive function load? I think it was not last episode, the episode before, where you sort of said that the most exhausting thing isn't so much the doing of the thing, it's the mental load of
all the things.
all of the things.
Yeah.
So it's like, would there be a difference in your mind to coming home and doing the vacuuming as opposed to remapping what it is that you think you've got to do during the day, so that there's a level of cognitive load just absorbed in him that's got nothing to do and you can just function? Did that make any sense at all?
No.
That's awkward.
Reframe. So like a level of remapping. What do you mean by remapping?
Working out the logistics, taking a bit more of a leadership role and going, all right, babe, this doesn't need to be done today.
Yeah.
Step back. It almost doesn't matter that he has or hasn't done that. The fact that you've just had that taken off your plate.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Does that make more sense?
Yes.
So it's like, even if he does the thing or not, because it's not a thing for you anymore,
yeah,
it allows you to just take some pressure off and not feel masculine-y.
Burnt out. Let's just say burnt out.
Or at least,
Yeah. So.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Answer that question is yes and no. So.
That's why I'm asking.
So, yes, as if he comes home and goes like, you don't need to do that. Off you go. I've got it, whatever the case may be. Or you don't need to do that tonight, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. So that's like on the yes. The no side is, if it comes as like, you don't need to do that tonight, 9 times out of 10 it comes, well, that means my to-do list.
I've just got it tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. Yeah. So it's.
All right. So thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Because it's like the difference between having it said with empathy and having it said with management.
HR.
Yeah. There's a difference between leadership and management. It's like, oh, you don't need to do that today.
Yeah.
It's like, babe, go and put your feet up. You do not need to do that today.
Yeah.
You've done enough. You are epic. You look really pretty. I kind of like you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like
it's a hugely different experience for you as that woman.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we brought this up, because I'm hoping what we're doing is talking about the counterbalance to like what we originally started talking about, which is the, how can you do this to that person that you say you love, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, well, this is kind of one of the ways once you show them, like you embrace a certain amount of counterbalance, masculine and feminine role.
Yeah.
It's like, this is how I love you. This is why we're together. This is why I'm doing this, so that you can feel more like you.
Yeah.
Knowing that we're still adults, we've still got shit to do.
Yeah.
How do we make each other better?
Yeah, rather than I've come home and the house is a mess, so you're going to get a walloping.
Yeah.
Because like, how do you get... That's okay, she's in a masculine energy because she has to do everything all the time, and the way you're going to get her into submitting to you is to beat it into her. Please explain to me how that's going to fucking work.
So that was, going back to like 20 minutes, half an hour ago, and I said, what if that's the thing that person thinks they need to do to get them to fall in line? Yeah, that thing you just said, that.
Yeah, we're not here to fall in line.
But you know why I said it that way?
Yeah.
Because if it was the last episode, and we were talking about a hot take about what do men actually do. I'm oversimplifying it, but you know what I mean. And when you talk about lines and all that sort of carry on.
Oh, yeah, that was a couple of episodes ago. Yep.
Yeah. And there is a difference, a massive difference between leadership and management. There is a massive difference between being the person who happens to be male and attempting to reap the benefits of their slave with boobs and being the man who takes ownership in as positive and healthy a way of their household so that everyone in it flourishes.
Yeah.
This is what I feel like we're talking about. How do you get to be more you? How do you get to feel more feminine if that's a thing that you want to feel and spend more time in? Well, this is what he's for, is to create a space where that's an encapsulated thing where she can be herself. So can the kids.
Yeah. And that is not in a household where you get beaten into submission,
And
because
that's
not being yourself. That's not giving you the space to be yourself. That is giving you the space of being punished for being yourself.
But this is the distinction between like divine masculine and toxic masculine.
Yeah.
It's like, well, one is about empowerment. How do I get the people around me to be my... This is what I believe alphas are for, is they are there for the protection and care of their people, as opposed to the suppression and
I'm going to beat the shit out of the people that I'm supposed to care for, but care about the people that I have beers with more than my family.
That. And to say that the difference between like dictatorships and what democracies are supposed to be. So this is run by the people for the people. Just because I happen to be stepping more into the leadership role and trying to take loads off of people. That's the fucking point of being physically stronger and more tunnel visioned.
It's also the point of being a fucking leader.
That it's like, my job is to serve these people.
Yeah.
They're my fucking people. As opposed to be a punching bag so I feel better or normal or whatever framing we want to make of it.
Because I feel like a man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that.
No cameras today, but that was probably quite a telling face.
Yeah, I know. You're not really, no. I do all right when I get you riled up.
It's not even wrong. It's just, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. And I'm happy to say that about various other grown-ass men. It's like, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. How do you feel about being dadded?
Yeah, that.
Because you're not being it. And that's what she wants you for.
That.
Not for lessons on how to not be a Stepford wife failure.
That.
Yeah, that made syntaxial sense.
Sort of, kind of, but that's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, have we...
I think we've covered.
Have we done this to death?
I think we've done it to death.
Okay. No final points to bring up?
I don't think so, because I think our next episode's going to cover, it will probably reference back as we do, and that will cover anything else that will probably come up.
Cool.
Sweet.
In that case, be kind.
Be good.
Be smart.
Be your best self. I did it. I remembered it today.
You did it, but you get to miss out though.
I know. No bar fights. I got in.
Yeah, that's why I said something. It's like, shall we give her the chance to swoop in? Anyway, have a good one, guys.
Bye.